Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sell, Scale, and Thrive, the B2B SaaS podcast for founders. This is all about sales, about building your sales capabilities in your organization. Because a startup that sells is a startup that scales. Want to create positive impact by getting your SaaS product out to more customers? Then start here.
So welcome to LinkedIn Live on closing initiatives, and just thought I share like 5 thoughts on things that you can implement without trial and error in a few days or even in a few hours without any budget, without anything complicated. So the first thing I think is really to frame the conversation, and the important thing to understand is there's always a frame. Like stronger frames absorb weaker frames. If you're as a startup founder or sales leader, sales rep, you're in a call with 5 other corporate people from a Fortune 500 people company, and they basically say like, hey, look, we have more money. It would be great for you to work with us. Give us an offer by today, end of the day. Then we're going to analyze it internally. And it would be very good for you to work with us because, quite frankly, we don't need you. You need us. And it's the right thing for you to do to help a company. So that's the global status of that company. Like they're bigger and they have more money, all the things in the world, like on a global level. But on a local level, it's going to be really different because you, quite frankly, are better positioned to have something that people want. So if you want to do some frame stacking, right, like on the intrigue frame, like you help how somebody faced an obstacle and how they overcame it. So for example, as in a corporate environment, it's always the thing that they have more money than you, but they still haven't fixed the problem in a year or 5 years. So the thing then also is like, how can you frame a position that you like the most crucial party in the deal, so that it's like, hey, there's only very few select customers that we work with, and we are actually the price. Like it's a privilege to work with us because we're small, we have limited capacity. So please ask. And then also adding the time pressure from your side, it reduces decision quality. So don't pressure people, like that's otherwise like buyer regret. But if you can have a limited time offering where people actually say like, hey, we need to take a decision on the startup because otherwise like it's limited or it gets twice as expensive or so. That's helpful. And if you can back that up with authority, that you're just like the single best player in this very specific niche, that's really helpful. So if you're listening to this here, or if you're watching this, also feel free to put a comment, put any question on LinkedIn Live. Hi, Josef. Hi, Luca. And really happy to go into these ones as well over the next 30 minutes. I think the second thing is to build maps, like mutual action plans. And I'll show you an example in a second on this. So this is probably more as a checklist, I think, but going through this, I think it's really important to make it truly mutual, to get prospect engagement and make sure your buyers are also contributing. And that you really think about what does your buyer needs, what's the language that they use, and what's a compelling reason to act now when they need something in the future. So let me share that with you as an example. We use a tool called Inaccord to build mutual action plans. I mean, you can do this in a Google Sheet or so. So let me briefly share this. And the point then is really that how you do this with a customer, like how much of that they see, like is really important that they are also on board of what you do. So for example, this is our customer journey. And when somebody joins basically the first conversation, like a discovery call, it's really clear, like, is that a milestone? What date does this happen? And so on. And then what happens in the next steps? And this is a mutual action plan. So a buyer needs to contribute to that. Like there's a team on both sides involved, and it's really clear of who does what next over the next, like basically 20 steps. And you see like, okay, where are we in the process? And any side of the two negotiating parties can actually say, okay, here I would like to end the process because I know enough to not pursue it. Or like, hey, dear buyer, you wanted to get a decision done by Friday, but we haven't received your input on it. We haven't received your buy-in from your economic buyer. we still don't know the number one metric to impact. So we need that to make your binding offer. And then I think it's really important to have this also like role-based and basically not like two-person based. So when you build this team, like that you have a place where you invite people, that you can do this based on the roles that you need, like, and then in basically like a more like Google slide format, so to say. You can also do this like an account plans here and say like, hey, these are like the 3 buying personas, and this is who's involved. These were the value drivers, the key selling points people mentioned. This was like the thing where they're not convinced. This is basically the story that we tell together, working with your champion. And then these are the next dates. Like that's gonna be what we do. Like 1st of December we did. Here's the next thing. Here's gonna be the next 4 steps to basically get a signed offer together. And if there's basically things that a prospect says like, hey, we need some interim steps, so let's add it to this plan, because this plan needs to be handled together. And then I think the third input is just like really use video everywhere that you can, from the first contact, just to establish rapport, build trust, put up a call to action immediately. And you can do this via LinkedIn direct message, so to say, videos. You can do this via Loom video. You can do this with other tools, Vidyard, whatever you want to use. You can also use that then not only for lead generation, but before you jump on a call with somebody, and you can already control the frame and not just like have a meeting which is called SalesPlaybook, HubSpot, whatever. So you can already send them a video before and say like, hey, I'm really looking forward to take a decision on how we move forward here. So here's what's going to happen in the meeting. And by the way, like we already work with 3 customers in your space. Here they are, like, here's some things we did for them. So establishing trust. And I would love to hear 2 minutes of feedback from you. Here's a link to share some input. So you can control the frame, create intrigue, establish trust, and then hand back over. The third option here is really for the follow-up, that you tell a story instead of just sending a PDF, just sending an offer or a presentation. So 2 to 5 minute Loom video that people can also then use internally to forward to their buyers or like their stakeholders. So that the walkthrough part here, not only for the person you had the conversation with, but to get at the seat at the table. So if they send it to the board, to their chief executive officer, to somebody that's influencing the deal, that you don't need to get physically invited to the conversation, but at least you're going to be there to the degree possible. And the last thing is just like a 24/7 VSL, a video sales letter on your website, on your application, on your autoresponder. That's going to be less helpful to have specific closing motion, but things like, for example, like a testimonial can work really well there. So for example, when you have like a case study, in our case, these ones I can just really share, and you can deliver the case study really quickly, that how a customer went from 0 or less than 10 customers to exit, how they basically built the sales team, how they did, how they increased deal size by 10x, or like 250K deal here. It's going to be helpful if you can send that as a video and not just like because we say so. So because video is always a really authentic format compared to maybe a text message or an email. So that's it on the video side. Maybe I'll just share you how you can do that. So you can go on LinkedIn, you can go directly, and I just show you one that, for example, I sent to Jeremias Meyer, co-founder and CEO of Vexio, like a long time ago. And this was like my original outreach to him. Was not really like amazing messaging, not really like any video tool. It was like less than 45 seconds, but managed to get a response from him like the next morning. Had a conversation, and in January 2021, rest is history. I'd like to say maybe like I got a seed funding round led by him, by Session VC. 1.5 years later, started all with a video message to have an initial outreach that was really zero budget, zero effort, zero scripting and so on, and zero PDF for sure. The fourth thing I think, and that's counterintuitive, is no is great. You always get teach in old school says like hunt for the yes, like get people to say yes a lot, and like because yes, they reaffirm, they're ensuring yourself. I think no is better. There's a whole book by Jim Camp around negotiation, around no, because a yes doesn't increase information flow. You don't learn anything from a yes. If you ask like, do you want the beer? And the other person says yes, and like you give them a beer, you say cheers, you're done. You didn't learn. If they say no, you can just listen and shut up for a bit, and they're going to tell you like, no, because I'm driving a car tonight, no, because I'm still working, no, because I'm drunk or hangover, no, because I don't drink for dietary or religious reason, no, because I don't like beer, I like wine, no, because I get you a beer, whatever it is. But with a no, you learn. And typically in a sales pitch, this is also the case that then when you ask and you finish your demo and you ask, are there any questions? Very often people tell you, no, there are no questions. And then what I would ask is like, well, then we can immediately start working together and we sign an annual contract. And then people don't say yes, right? And it's just like, no, it's like, why not? And then people can list all their concerns they still have, all the obstacles to overcome before working together. If you just ask them like, so, shall I send you an offer? They're going to say, yes, send me an offer. If you say like, shall I call you next week to see how the offer goes? They're going to say yes. If you going to ask for like a meeting and they invite the CEO as well, they might say like, no, the CEO is not joining the meeting. It's like, well, why not? Is this a company-wide priority? Like, well, the CEO first needs to understand the business case and the testimonial and like wants to hear from me if I'm bought in. Again, you get the pattern. And the fifth one is really be ready to walk away, always. At the moment you're emotionally, like financially, maybe you even are, but emotionally dependent from a deal, it's not helpful for you to close a deal, at least not on desirable terms, without giving discounts, without making tons of concessions that are not even needed. Because at the moment you're not ready to walk away, the other person is, the other person has leverage. So brief story here, a good friend of mine was kite surfing, and his kite basically went away, like it broke, and like the metal things jumped back on his nose, like heavily bleeding. He didn't know if it was broken or not. And then it was looking for a way to get back to shore because it was in the open ocean. A boat was coming by, and he asked like, hey, can you put me on board? And it's like, yes, it's $250. I was like, but it's only 2 minutes drive, right? Can you just be a nice person? And like, I'm injured. I was like, well, it's $250, take it or leave it. Shall we get you on board? Yes or no? So this was a difficult situation because from a negotiation position, the boat was better off. The boat was just waiting for this and just can continue doing that. My friend was in the water, didn't have this best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And because he didn't have this, like, take me on board, let's figure out things once we're on the shore. I don't know if he really needed to pay $250 if they found a nice deal, but never get yourself in a position where you're wounded in the ocean. Let's put it that way. So I promised you 5 tips that are really actionable. So I hope these ones are. We're going to have a lot more content on our academy. And I think then I would really love to see from you which of these topics that we're going to discuss in very detailed sessions here, how to take control of the buyer journey, how to gather and provide high quality trust building base for discussion before the call, how you leverage things across the organization, how you can close more deals faster, how you can go from sales qualified lead to an opportunity, painting pain, creating urgency, how you can improve your conversation tactics, structure collaboration along mutual action plans, and how you can do better negotiation in deals on the approaches, the levers, some case studies, how you can establish that status. I'd be curious to learn from you if you can just want to put that on the comments, how you want to do this, like what questions you have on this. That's amazing. So just briefly pause for a second to just give you the opportunity to put any questions towards the chat. If no questions, also happy to share a few more inputs and tips. One will need all 4 from Darek. So chat is working. Let me share maybe a few more thoughts on the side of like, how can you put this into structure? Like what we often get is like, hey, this makes sense as individual toolkits, like a screwdriver, a hammer. How can you put this into a sales process? And I think the first thing is like, be religious on day in, day out. Always schedule the next synchronous activity on the call or meeting itself. It saves you tons of mental load, CRM reminders, and risk of getting ghosted. Getting to your question, Anwar, on how you negotiate investment rounds with investors in a second. We'll go into the concept of the academy program as well to Joseph, and then let's take the question step by step. Really cool that this is ramping up. Onward to your point on how do you negotiate with investors? It boils down to a lot of fundamentals. How many investors do you have lined up? How many potential investments does the investor have lined up? In the last 2 years, money was basically free, so capital needed to be deployed, so it was a lot easier to raise funds than it is right now. Right now, the negotiation in the investment round is really what's your alternative. Lemnis, for example, they bootstrapped from 0 to 10 million ARR, like in less than 4 years profitably. They didn't need external capital. So private equity firm was approaching them like, hey, how about we invest money with you? It's like, okay, how about it's like we give you 150 million valuation, 15x ARR multiple. We purchase 20% of the company and we let you run business on your terms. We don't want the board seat. We don't want to have strategic influence. You just proceed. For example, for Lemnis founders, this was really important to have freedom to operate. It was an excellent negotiation position. So to your point, Anwar, is like then also get yourself into the best possible negotiation position that you can, that you actually have leverage on it. If you don't have leverage and otherwise you run out of money, that's not good for you. And then it's really also finding out like what's important for you. Is it just the money? Is it like smart investors? Is it the terms on which you raise funds? What's important for an investor? Is it the strategic investment? Is it financially driven? And what's the timeline of the investor as well? So that to Anwar's question. From a LinkedIn user anonymously, like I found a transparent activity plan particularly interesting. CPQ tools make the possible in a very tangible and transparent way, but actually showing my CRM is a good idea. Yeah, absolutely. I implemented CPQ, like configure price quote, like once like on a Salesforce platform, which is a whole other beast. Don't make the activity plan too much about your product, but make it really about what are the steps in the plan that you need on a buyer journey to take a decision. So the less you have this conversation about your product and the more it is in the world, in the business of the other person, for example, the better. Taking sales hiring as an example, some people tell me like, hey, yeah, we're hiring and like we want people on the ground on 1st of January. It's like, that's cool. Now it's mid of September. Typically, even if you find somebody within a month, you sign a contract mid of October, which is short, then they need have 2 months notice period. Then it's Christmas. They're going to start on the 1st of January. They typically need 3 months to ramp, 6 months for a complex product. What's your sales cycle? And there's like 6 months. Okay, good. So that person will be ramped by like March or June. If sales cycle is 6 months, don't expect that person to close any deals in the first half a year of 2023. Don't expect revenue from that hire if things go well. And then people say like, oh shit, that's not good. Can we cut the timeline somewhere to get revenue in the first half year? And then you can speak about things such as like working with a headhunter, sales training to ramp faster, like coaching, whatever it might be. Joseph, I'll get to your question in the end regarding the academy program. And then Dara, like how do you create a sense of urgency and fast decision making when a client clearly has all the options offer and the decision makers buy it exactly, but there's nothing to moving and critical thinking is missing? That's a hard one. If people have not done something maybe for 5 years and now actually like it's like now it needs to happen in September. Why? Typically, the single biggest thing is like a compelling reason to act. For example, when GDPR was becoming a thing, I think 25th of June 2018 or so, and suddenly everybody needed to get compliant. Everybody knew like exactly that date is like that date you need to be ready. And then you can backtrack, you can reverse engineer the timeline to do this. So work with your decision makers, executive sponsors on like what's a compelling reason to act, when do they want to achieve a certain outcome, and then move back of what needs to happen, and then see like when they need to start. And this doesn't need to be like the overall company objective, but just one piece they want live. In first annual contract, previous company, for example, the one of the C-level, like one part of the and board member, he basically called me like, I need this done in 4 months. When can we start? I think we need about 3 months overall. It was like, well, we only get 1 month left, so how can we help you take the decision to start within a month? If somebody's coming to your gym imaginary and say like, I want to get fit, it's 2nd of January, and the person is like not fit at all, and you ask them like, how many times have you tried that? It's like 5 times, never worked. What's different today than yesterday? If the person says like, my spouse broke up, like I hurt my back, I needed to commit to a certain sports event, whatever it might be, like a compelling reason to act of why now change needs to happen. More questions, just put into the chat. Still some time left. And then also, Joseph, to your question on what's the concept of the academy? After working with 200 startups, most of them B2B SaaS startups and scale-ups, especially from scale-ups, we more and more got the demand of like, hey, look, it's really hard to find people that are great at closing large deals, like 50 to 500K deals. And it's also really hard for people who never closed a deal in their life, so sales development reps, people that haven't worked in sales before, to learn the ropes of closing deals. It's way easy to show somebody how to write like quick question in a subject line in a cold email and to follow a cold call script than for somebody to learn how to close B2B deals. So the concept of the academy is really to help people, help account executives, help anybody that needs to close deals, close more bigger deals faster by getting predictability in it. Because it's really frustrating for people to not hit quota, feel alone. It's like, hey, I started here, I just have this quote, I need to close a 500K, a million. And honestly, nobody's having the right amount of time to coach and upskill and train me. So I want to learn at any time, anywhere. I'm committed to it, and really doing it in 4 modules. So we have like ongoing annual, semi-annual programs, but to do that really quickly. Just for AEs who want to learn sales in hours instead of months, who want to join a unique small group that's really focused on that outcome, and to like have exclusive working sessions where you can bring your pipeline to close deals as well. And really like hands-on actionable inputs. It's also for founders that say like, hey, we need to reach the monthly targets. I hired like 3 junior AEs, but I don't have the time, capacity, or skill set to ramp them to close not only 5K deals, but 50K deals towards where they can close 6-figure deals on their own. So what does it mean, right? There's going to be 4 modules every Friday, like 2 times 3 hours, starting 14th of October. On these topics we discussed to help you achieve these outcomes that are just the most common patterns of where salespeople in closing deals struggle. And then just having an all-inclusive offering for you, even getting some bonuses in the inaugural sessions. You have access to myself, negotiation expert, to Matthias, is really good at like structuring collaborations, close like multiple 6-figure deals in his life. You have these 4 sessions, you have micro learnings in breakout rooms. You have a small group of community, like maximum 15 people. And you get a certification from us, like if you basically went through this. Even you get like 8 group coaching sessions during and after the modules to get feedback on your progress afterwards, how your pipeline is progressing. So you get 50 hours of hands-on closing value overall for 3,500 euros, all inclusive. And then question, does it also work for B2C? The academy is not really for B2C, as it's really about helping you close 5 and 6-figure deals. So like anything between 10,000 to $1 million, like with a focus on 25 to 500K deals. So in B2C, it's probably more oriented about like growth hacking, around like basically closing funnels, anything like $100 to 5K from the B2Cs, I know. Last question here from Murzon Akhmedov. What's your opinion to hire A's for a startup? Can you say it on an ARR base? Yeah, I mean, we basically think like if you hire an account executive, depending on seniority, like if the hire can close about 500K in ARR per year, like that's good. If you can build a model where they can sell up to like $1 million, that's amazing. I mean, it's absolutely useful and necessary to hire an account executive for a startup. Once you even see like signs of message market fit towards product market fit, where you as a founder validated that the sales motion works. So you closed 10 customers in the same niche. So the other variables outside of the person are reasonably stable. It doesn't work so well to hire an account executive if you have zero signs of product market fit, because then it's more of a go-to-market validation, business engineering, business model topic than it is a sales topic. So if you hire like somebody for sales, like then the person needs to be able to sell. All good. Then we stayed within the committed time. So if you have any questions, reach out to me anytime. LinkedIn probably easiest, otherwise email. And looking forward to seeing you closing more bigger deals faster. So thanks so much for tuning in.